is Liberty Falls the worst zombies bonus map of all time, or is everyone just whining about nothing? Today, we're going to look back on all the zombies bonus maps Treyarch have ever released, and we're going to rank them based on these 5 factors: aura, Easter egg, story, unique draw, wonder weapon, and gameplay/replayability. And once we've gone through all the bonus maps, we'll then rank Liberty Falls on those same criteria to understand whether it's absolute trash or it actually stacks up pretty well. First, though, we need to understand, what is a bonus map? Generally, I think bonus maps can be easily identified by the following. They are more shallow, typically, than fully fledged maps. They don't have a fully fledged main quest Easter egg. They're released at the same time as the game launch, so they're not DLC that comes later in the game's life cycle. And they're also often tied to a special unlock process, and that process can be one of a couple of things. It could be pre-ordering the game, it could be buying a special edition of the game, like a hardened edition or a vault edition or whatever, or it could be that it's unlocked by playing other modes. So you finish the campaign or something and you unlock this bonus map. Now, I already know that some of you nerds are going to say that based on my criteria, Nacht der Untoten would be a bonus map because it released at launch, it was more shallow experience, no Easter egg, you got it by completing the campaign, etc. But Nacht was the first zombies map ever, so I think it's an exception to the rule. A better, more recent example would be Black Ops 4. In Black Ops 4, 9, Voyage, and Blood all have main quest Easter eggs, they're all fully fledged, etc. But then Classified is a little different because it doesn't have a fully fledged main quest Easter egg, and it's unlocked by buying the Black Ops Pass. So Classified bonus map, the rest full maps. Now technically, in Black Ops 6, Treyarch is marketing Terminus as a fully fledged map, and Liberty Falls as a fully fledged map as well, because it has a main quest Easter egg. However, the gameplay that we've seen from Liberty Falls makes it really look more in line with our expectations of what bonus maps have to offer. So let's test it and see whether Liberty Falls can hold up against some of the other classic bonus maps from over the years. And we'll start with the first ever bonus map they ever made, which was 5 in Black Ops 1. 5 was unlocked by completing the Black Ops 1 campaign or by typing 3-arc unlock into the terminal on the main menu. It's set in the Pentagon, and it uses a bunch of reused play spaces from the game's campaign, which might sound like a huge problem at first, but the way they converted the lower levels of the map into full zombified laboratories meant it still really retained its COD Zombies charm. So let's start running it through our criteria. For aura, I think 5 is actually really strong. In the spawn alone, you've got alarms ringing, you've got the PA saying that power's critical.
Power level critical. Major systems offline.
You've obviously got the classic JFK quote about needing to turn the power on.
A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, so hit the power!
It's eerie, it's unsettling, it's uncanny, and as the sound of the zombies breaking down the glass around you pierces your ears while you're kind of getting your bearings, you realize that your only path forward in this extremely enclosed space is to go down this elevator, and when you do so, boom, you're in one of the most classified buildings on the planet, and then you can go further still and find all of those classified secret research projects. Like, it screams COD Zombies aura once you get past that initial room, and even the initial room I think is pretty good. So for aura, I give it a 9 out of 10. For Easter eggs though, different story. It's actually really weak. I guess you could say that the fact that you unlocked it by beating the campaign was an Easter egg in itself, but I think that kind of doesn't count. It's got a music Easter egg, but it's Eminem. And sure, you can get the bonfire sale on the map. I think that was actually the first time we ever saw that, and that's pretty cool, but it's not that crazy, right? So for Easter eggs, I give it a 2. For story, thankfully, it's a lot stronger because, first of all, its intro cutscene is classic.
Gentlemen, lock and load.
It's also the first ever non-Ultimus unique cast that we ever got in Zombies, and it's the definition, really, of classic Zombies story. It's an alternate history where real figures from real life actually went through a series of covert, clandestine events that have been redacted from the records of history. Like, you cannot get more classic zombie story if you tried, really. It's so Black Ops. And over the years, the story actually got even better once we got more info about the map from other maps like Revelations. And it's also got the Pentagon Thief on it. And the story of the Pentagon Thief is sick in itself. So story gets a 7. For unique draw, I think it's a 9. I'm going to be straight up. The teleporters around the map, the fact that you're in the Pentagon itself, that then combined with the Pentagon Thief just being there running around stealing your guns. Like, I think that is so cool. And for a bonus map also. And remember, this is before Moon came out. So this is the first time that in Zombies, you've got this sort of strange boss slash NPC slash thing chasing you. And it feels like something out of a fever dream. Like it's a sleep paralysis demon or something. I think that that's sick. So I give it a strong 9 for unique draw. It's weaker for Wonder Weapon. It's the Winter's Howl. It's kind of meh. It's not a viable high round gun. It's not something people really sort of fell head over heels in love with. It's just whatever. So Wonder Weapon gets a 4. And then for replayability and gameplay in high rounds, it's really tight corridors. It's really claustrophobic. You feel like you're on edge all the time, and it's hard. So for the majority of the player base, I don't think this is something that they're replaying like crazy, but the challenge does mean that you can always give it another crack, and the true hardcore part of the community have found their strat for it, where you sort of run around and kill the zombies with the trap here, and perfected it, with the world record, as far as I'm aware, being 241 set in 2021. So it's got some high round potential, but it's not the best I've ever seen. I give it a 6. So that's 5. We'll tally things up at the end. Let's move on to another map that also was a bonus with Black Ops 1 launch, Dead Ops Arcade. Now, this was unlocked by typing DOA into the Black Ops 1 menu terminal, and you can tell it's a passion project, right? It's very zombies, but also very not zombies at the same time, and it wasn't marketed at all, which actually makes it even more zombies in my opinion. However, it's obviously so different to everything else that Zombies has ever seen that I just don't think it fits in on this list, so I'm not going to actually give it scores, but I wanted to give it an honorable mention regardless. Next up, yet another Zombies bonus that we got in Black Ops 1 was Narked, Verrucht, Shino Numa, and Dariz all coming together and being an additional offering that you could unlock if you had, I think it was the Hardened or Prestige editions of the game. They were also available later in the Resurrection DLC 4, but you could access them from day one, so that's what I'm referring to here. You could access them as a bonus before they were purchasable. And these were pretty much the old World at War maps, but just with Black Ops 1 quality of life. So for Aura, obviously, those maps inherently are so classic, but I actually think it loses a little bit of flavor by being in the Black Ops 1 engine, because in World at War, things felt so much more gritty and grungy and horrifying, whereas in Black Ops 1, the edge was taken off a little bit. And granted, they're still really strong. Like, Verrucht is still very much a haunted asylum with a bunch of screaming and crying and blood on the walls and terror, but I think the World at War version kind of clears here, so I'm going to give Aura a 9 rather than a 10. For Easter eggs, obviously, it was early days, and bearing in mind that we're not ranking these things based on having full main quest Easter eggs, just little sort of side nuggets and scraps and stuff like that, and they were pretty good. They were decent overall. Like, there was some cool stuff hidden in there, some of which was just brought back from the original versions of the maps, but they did also add an Easter egg to a map that wasn't in World at War, and that was on Narked. If you destroy most of the barrels on the map, the explodable barrels, it plays an Easter egg song. So overall, decent for eggs. I'm going to give it a 6. For story, it's a 10 out of 10. I mean, hands down. How could you slight the story of the origins of the Ultimus crew? Like, you just couldn't do it, right? It is the most prototypical, best example you can hand anybody on a plate of what the origins of the zombie story meant, what it was rooted in, what it was grounded in, the flavor of it all. And so it's just a 10. It's a straight up 10. Can't argue with that one. For unique draw, though, I feel like there's a little bit more debate here, because the maps do have sort of cool elements to them. Like, you could almost say that Pack-a-Punch is a unique draw of Dariz because it was so early on. And similarly, maybe you could argue the Zipline is a unique draw of Shino, or maybe the Flogger is. But I think that they lose a couple points here purely for the fact that these are just remakes, right? And so those unique draws were also there in the World at War version. So is there a unique draw to specifically play the Black Ops 1 version? Well, then we start talking about, I don't know, not getting hugged by zombies because of push player. And sure, that's nice, but I think most people don't even understand the words I just said. You'll have to watch my 20 facts about the origins of zombies video to get the backstory on that one. It's linked in the corner of the screen and in the description now. So for me, I think unique draw for these maps in their remastered form is a 7. For Wonder Weapon, it's pretty strong, and I mean, they're benefiting here from the fact that it's 4 maps in one, right, that we're ranking, but they added the Thunder Gun to Narked, which is a pretty big change. They added the Winter's Howl to Verrückt. They also obviously brought the Wunderwaffe back in Der Riese, and they also went as far as fixing a glitch that was happening with the Wunderwaffe on World at War, where if you got zapped by it, it would mean that you only had one hit jug. Like, it completely ruined the amount of health that you had for the rest of your game. And that is still a problem in World at War to this day, but they fixed it in the Black Ops 1 version. So I think they did a strong job from the Wonder Weapon perspective, and I'd give it an 8. Finally, for gameplay, it's 4 maps in one here as a bonus, so it's damn strong for replayability. And some of the quality of life changes compared to the Black Ops 1 version really do make a huge difference here. So quick revives, now reviving you in solo, for instance. Huge change, obviously. Monkey bombs being added to the box. Carpenter being added in. Mule kick being added. Black Ops 1 box weapons instead of some of the weaker ones in World at War. Push player, like I mentioned before. And so all those things meant that the general player base really attached to those maps in a bigger way. And so I'd give them a 9 on this front. Next, we have Bus Depot, Farm, and Town from the release of Black Ops 2. So these were unlocked by owning the game, but they were obviously all splinter versions of the full Green Run transit experience. For Aura, I think it's a 10. Straight up, I gotta say it. Town is such an iconic thing in zombies. And I mean, the fact that to this day, there are custom mappers still continuously remaking Town over and over and over again is a testament to how much of an impact it had on all of us. It's so iconic. It's so memorable. And so from my perspective, yeah, it's a 10. Easter eggs, though, opposite. It's a 0. There's just no real Easter egg stuff in these. Like, they really just didn't lean into that at all, pretty much. So, yeah, meh. And similarly, story on these splinter versions of these maps is pretty damn weak. I'd give it maybe a 1 out of 10. Like, sure, okay, it's kind of cool that you have these cleanup crews going into these locations and you're playing as CIA or CDC. Like, cool, I guess. But it's the first time since Narked you're playing as voiceless characters. That obviously does nothing for the story. And so yeah, it doesn't really move things forward or contribute, so I give it a 1. For unique draw, it does better. And it's an interesting one, actually, because it's almost like the draw is what you don't have versus what you do have on those maps. Like on Bus Depot, it's really a bare bones zombies experience. You have a box and crappy wall weapons, and that's it. And it almost feels like playing a hardcore version of zombies. Then on Farm, you have the box, Galvers, quick, double tap speed, and jug. And then on Town, you've got all of the above, plus pap and plus stamina up. And so you kind of had almost a modular zombies experience where you could play with the extent of loadout that you felt best suited your needs on a given day. And I think that is the draw in some ways. So I give it maybe a 7. For Wonder Weapon, trash. So bad. At launch, the only Wonder Weapon was the ray gun. Like, you can't get more sort of generic than that. And granted, later down the line, after Buried came out, they did patch the ray gun Mark II into all of those maps, sort of retroactively. But still, it's just the ray gun Mark II. It's nothing crazy, so for Wonder Weapon, I give it a 2. And because of that, you're sort of really left wishing that there was some other Wonder Weapon present, and that affects replayability as well. So, replayability. First of all, you're constantly having to spin the box to try and get a ray gun. This is actually a big problem in Town High rounds, in Farm, like in all of these splinter maps. The lack of strong Wonder Weapon access is its biggest replayability issue, in my opinion. But in scenarios where you desperately need a ray gun and you can't find one, you got 2 options. Either you can just spin the box a bunch of times, or you could spend some points on a real-life ray gun instead. This is an officially licensed Call of Duty Zombies U2s. They've got other versions of them as well, like this, and you can get them only for a limited time on the U2 store. It's linked in the description down below, and if you use code Milo at checkout, you can get a discount, so it's a little bit cheaper. They've even got other versions as well, like this, for instance, I haven't opened yet, but it's the Juggernog machine in there. There's a Pack-a-Punch as well. Like, there's all sorts of crazy stuff. So it's your choice. Spin the box a bunch of times or buy yourself one of these ray guns. Now, with all that said, the fact that you've got these different sort of difficulties of experience meant that people really gravitated to trying these and giving them their best shot. And the high rounds community has also spent a lot of time on these maps over the years. The record on Bus Depot is 91, on Farm it's 96, and Town famously was this fight to see if anybody could get around 100, and it was extremely difficult, but it did eventually get done. However, for the general player base, I think most people, if they're going to play zombies, they just decide to play Transit instead. So I give the gameplay replayability stuff here a 6. Next up, we're moving on to Nuketown Zombies. It was unlocked by purchasing the Hardened Edition or above in Black Ops 2, or by purchasing an add-on after launch for $5. And I mean, what a map it was, right? What a bonus map. For Aura, I'm going to be straight up. It's just a 10 out of 10. It's almost unfair to compare this to some of the other sort of worse bonus maps because Nuketown leans into the aesthetic and the ambience so heavily. You've got the air raid siren, you've got the clock doing its thing, you've got perks falling from the sky, the zombies are in hazmat suits. Obviously, the environment around you is so torn up and destroyed and apocalyptic. And I mean, even town, right? Even Transit generally looks less apocalyptic than Nuketown Zombies somehow. And I would still rank Town's aesthetic like crazy high. So Aura, it's a 10. Easter eggs, it's kind of in line with expectations for a bonus map. Like on round 5, you hear the Transit bus horn. And then you've got the Richtofen quotes thing and the transmission from Moon, and that is pretty sick, I've got to say. And then the zombies' eyes are yellow until around 25 when Richtofen takes over, and like, that's cool, man. I've got to give it props for that. But at the same time, it's not really blowing us away with the Easter eggs, so I give it a 7. For story, it's also pretty strong. Like I said, it's linked to Moon. It's taking place at the same time. But you're CIA and CDC, so no crew and no quotes. And it really loses points because of that. So I think that it's still got a lot of positives to it, but overall, it gets a 6 for story. Then for unique draw, I mean, it's Nuketown, dude. You're on Nuketown, one of the most sort of popular Call of Duty maps of all time. But it's not just ham-fisted and squeezed in there. It's a really transformed Nuketown. And I think the way that the perks drop from the sky, and you can, for example, not get Jug until later rounds because of that, because it's randomized, that really adds to the sort of draw here, in my opinion. So I think it's pretty strong, but it's not the strongest I've ever seen. So I give it a 7. For Wonder Weapon, sort of same as Town and stuff. It's the Ray Gun and the Ray Gun Mark II. It's kind of boring, 2 out of 10. And then for replayability, similar to Town, except obviously this is not multiple splinter maps. This is just one map. You do have the randomizing element of the perks dropping, and that's cool. But I mean, there's not a huge amount to do on Nuketown once you've kind of got to round 20. You've seen pretty much all of it. But still, it's a fun one to just jump on and mindlessly shoot zombies, so I give it a 5. Next, The Giant. This was unlocked by purchasing a collector's edition of Black Ops 3 or the season pass. I feel like maybe it was also a pre-order bonus. I can't really remember right now, but it did also become available later as its own purchase. For Aura, The Giant is a weird one because for me, when I load in, the first thing I think every time I spawn in is I wish the visual presentation of this map was tweaked just a little bit to have more contrast. Because why does it look like I've got foggy glasses on while I'm playing? Like, what is that? Why is there this sort of screen in front of me at all times, which doesn't feel like fog? It just feels like everything's sort of not desaturated, but it's the contrast. The contrast is just weird. And it sucks because the map would be so beautiful if that problem wasn't there, but I think that really impacts the map overall. And also, another thing that I think does actually mean it loses some points for Aura is the Black Ops 1 or World at War versions of Deriz. They are so powerful because you really know that you're in this German facility. Like, it really feels like a lived-in place, and you want to uncover all these experiments. And I think a little bit of that is lost when you go from World at War to Black Ops 1, and a little bit more of it is lost going from Black Ops 1 to Black Ops 3. Like, it just feels a little bit less like I'm about to discover this secret UFO technology or whatever else they might have been experimenting with in Deriz. Like, it just feels like one step further removed from that, maybe because of the fact that the facility is so much more run down. But still, it's strong. I just don't think it's perfect. I do think, however, that the robot being in the background is kind of cool. I think that kind of gives it some bonus points to make up for things, so I'd give it, let's say, a 7. Then for Easter eggs, it's pretty much in line with expectations, right? It's similar to Nuketown. You've got music Easter egg, you've got the fly trap coming back. The fly trap's actually slightly altered, and now it gives you this Maxis audio, and he talks about the beacon being lit, which the community was obsessed over. But the reward is ass. It's the Annihilator, like, who cares? And they also added the infamous perk machine Easter egg that you can do with the giant robot. So I think it's decently strong, admittedly, but bear in mind, we're no longer in the Black Ops 2 days with slightly simpler maps. We're in Black Ops 3 now, and things are complex, and I feel like they could have done a bit more here, so I don't want to give too many points to it for Easter eggs, so I'm gonna go with a 7. Then for story, it's a 10. Bro, the giant story is one of my favorites of all zombies maps ever. The radios on that map are insane. The intro cutscene, the way that connected things together, insane. Like, it's so good, bro. It gives me goosebumps even thinking about it now. Its premise as well, like, bro. The giant is so good for that. So yeah, story's a 10. Unique draw. Well, why would you play the giant over Black Ops 1 Doriz? Like, what would be the jump that you'd be making there? Is it just because you want to play Black Ops 3? Like, is it just because you can't be bothered to install Black Ops 1? If so, I think that's a pretty weak unique draw. And sure, there's the things that it sort of inherits from the original versions of Doriz, like, yeah, the Pack-a-Punch. Yeah, woo. But at this point, again, it's Black Ops 3, and like those things are no longer the earth-shattering, groundbreaking discoveries that they were 5-10 years ago. So honestly, for unique draw, I'm gonna be kind of crazy here, and I'm gonna give it a 3. And then for Wonder Weapon, it's the Wunderwaffe again. There was no variant. There was no sort of change to it. It's just the Wunderwaffe. So yeah, it's fine. It's good. I love the Wunderwaffe, but I'll give it a 6. And then for gameplay and replayability, I think it's decent. Like, BO3 has AATs, right? So that does change the experience of playing on one of these maps. You've got gobbles as well. Totally changes the experience. So there's more replayability there, more high round potential, but also, is there really that much bringing you back to the map over and over again because you've seen Doriz 3 times already at this point? I don't know. I don't know if there is. So I think it's decent, but not groundbreaking. I'd give it a 7. Next, we're leaving Black Ops 3 and moving to Black Ops 4 with Classified. This was unlocked by purchasing the Black Ops Pass at launch, and I mean, it's a 5 remake, but it's so much more than a 5 remake. Like, if you compare The Giant to Doriz, and then you compare Classified to 5, Classified goes so much further to transform the experience. And I mean, the aura on 5 already was strong, right? And there's a risk in a newer engine that you would lose some of that magic. I actually think that the twist that they put on 5 in Classified is different to the aura that they managed to achieve with 5, but it's no less powerful. I think that Classified is an aura oozer. It's so good. The custom music, the custom round change music, the custom end screen jazzy song, the custom zombie models, the intro cutscene vibe. It's crazy. Everything is on fire, or it's broken, or it's messy, or it's bloody. Like, it's giving zombie invasion way more than 5 did. There's new radios to listen to. The Pat machine is in Groom Lake. Like, bro, it's incredible. It's so good for that. And it benefits from all of the stuff that 5 benefited from too, being in the Pentagon, all of that stuff. So yeah, it's a 10 for aura. And Easter eggs as well for bonus maps. The fact that there's this whole elaborate free Wonder Weapon quest, which is probably the closest to a fully fledged Easter egg that we really ever get in these bonus maps. It's called Cold War Remedy. There's a music Easter egg. There's the round 150 Easter egg where you get a full in-game cutscene. And there's a bunch of little sort of side Easter eggs and scraps and ciphers and all sorts. So compared to the other bonus maps, it blows them away, dude. So it's a 10 for Easter eggs. Story's also pretty strong, playing as those classic characters and trying to understand why they're there and how that fits into the story that we knew from the past several years and how they made their way from Moon and then they ended up getting to there. And then in the end cutscene, we obviously see Primus jumping in as well. And it's like, what the hell, bro? Like, everyone's coming together now? That's pretty sick. However, I don't think the story is the best we've ever seen, so I think it's strong, but not a 10. I'd give it a 7. And then for unique draw, I will say one of the things that is so important in my experience to the experience on 5 was the Pentagon Thief, and he didn't return on Classified. And I think that's an L, you know? I think that's a loss. That was such a unique special round, and for just Hellhounds to take its place, that really reduces the unique draw factor. And yeah, the PAP location is cool, but otherwise it is mostly the same as 5. And so if we're taking points away from a map like The Giant for not really meaningfully changing the experience, I think that the same thing happens here a little. And so for unique draw, I'm going to give it a 4. Then for Wonder Weapon, it's the Winter's Howl, but again, that's kind of it. Like, they didn't give you 16 variants of the Winter's Howl in different elemental configurations or something. It's just the Winter's Howl. And the Winter's Howl, as much as it was kind of trash in previous games and is better in Black Ops 4, is still just not anyone's favorite Wonder Weapon. So 5 out of 10 for Wonder Weapons. And then for gameplay and replayability, there's not a lot to do on the map apart from survive. And the high round strat when the map came out was literally to just sit in the corner with a shield and shoot the shield's gun. Like, it was a very boring strategy, all things considered. And nowadays, people mainly use the traps for high rounds, but it's just, yeah, I mean, it's a map. it's a map that people can play, you know? But I don't think it has that sort of special feel that some of the others do. So for gameplay, I'm gonna give it a 6. All right, next up is Onslaught. Bro, aura, 0. Easter eggs, 0. Story, 1, maybe? I mean, it's kind of cool, I guess, that you've got outbreaks all across the globe and we're actually getting to experience those. Like, not just what our main crew are experiencing, not that there is one in Cold War, but the other sort of side stories. Like, I could see an argument being made there, but it's still, stories are 1 for me. Unique draw, I mean, 0, right? Maybe a 1 at best, but let's leave it at 0. Wonder weapon, 0. And then gameplay, replayability, and stuff like that. I think Onslaught, admittedly, to be fair, as much as I'm an Onslaught hater, certified from day 1 till I die, I will acknowledge it got better over the course of the year. Treyarch did make a lot of improvements to Onslaught that brought it from being total slop, like ridiculous levels of slop at launch, to something that was more passable at least. So rather than giving it a 0 here, I'm gonna give it a 3. Like I said, I'm a hater, but at least I'm aware I'm a hater, okay? So Onslaught really gets low marks across the board. Next, we need to address the elephant in the room. It's Nightmares. This was a mode that you unlocked at the end of the Black Ops 3 campaign. You can redo the campaign missions, but there's zombies, but it's really weird. It feels kind of like an afterthought, but also feels like something that could be really cool. It's just kind of all over the place, and to be honest, guys, I don't know how to rank this one. So I would love if you could help me out. Aura, Easter egg, story, unique draw, wonder weapon, gameplay, replayability. Where do you think Nightmares ranks? Let me know in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, it would be awesome if you hit the subscribe button. We just hit 2 mil. I'm going for 2.1. Let's go. And that brings us to the scoreboard so far before we dive into breaking down Liberty Falls. So in chronological order, the table looks like this. You can see that most of the maps are pretty decent for aura, but then you really start to see some differences appearing in the story department, for example, and also in the wonder weapon department. But if we order the table so you can see the totals, the lowest here is actually our Slices of Transit, which has 26 points, and the highest is the BO1 remasters with 49. And then the other maps are all a pretty close call in the middle. So, Liberty Falls, can it compete? Let's start with aura. When I first clapped eyes on Liberty Falls cheeks, what was the first thing I thought? Yeah, the aura's just not there. You see, in the COD Next stream, we had just been seeing an hour of multiplayer gameplay, and one of those multiplayer maps takes place in the town of Liberty Falls. And so to switch over to zombies gameplay from watching MP, and for it to still look like the same place, just didn't give me that zombies feel, man. And everything we've seen of the actual in-game Liberty Falls experience is incredibly weak in this department. It looks way too inspired by what I would describe as the sort of modern warfare aesthetic, maybe, or the multiplayer or Warzone aesthetic, perhaps. And the stylization and the art direction, the ambience, and the overall zombies aesthetic that we've come to see experimented with and played with over the years in various different ways, but still stuck true to with the main zombies launch maps, that just feels like it's been obliterated here. Nothing about this screams zombies, and everything about it pretty much screams Warzone, or maybe Outbreak? But Treyarch themselves criticized Outbreak for not having enough environmental storytelling and not feeling like zombies. Like, it was reused assets, right? So the fact that that's the overall vibe here is really not a great start. Now, maybe the aura will be improved by the Easter egg, right? Maybe we'll get a Shangri-La experience, we'll toggle something, maybe all the normal parts of the map will become dark ethified, and maybe the one dark ethified part of the map that's already there, the church, maybe that would toggle back to being normal. Like, that would be really cool. That would feel really like zombies as well. And similarly, if there's a massive underground area that's like 70% of the play space and we just haven't seen it, and actually that's where all the sort of real zombies environmental storytelling is kind of kept, then hell yeah, dude. That would certainly be completely transformative for the aura. But as things stand, this one is not looking good, Chief. I think it's probably maybe a 1. And the only reason it's not a 0 is because the intro cutscene is so damn good. And it also does really look like Harper's Ferry in real life, which is just cool. But man, this could have been so much better. For Easter eggs, you know full well that this is a 10. Like, even if you're a hater of Liberty Falls, the fact that it's got a main quest Easter egg, which technically breaks it out of the criteria of even being a bonus map in the first place, like, that is fantastic. And against all of the other bonus maps that we've evaluated here, none of them are going to be able to compete with a fully fledged main quest. And that's not even considering all the potential side quests that they've also squeezed in here as well. So no matter what you might think of the aura, for Easter eggs, it does get max points. For story, story, I think that it's a really difficult one because the intro cutscene is so insane. It's one of the greatest cutscenes we've ever seen in Zombies. And Richtofon's involvement in the Easter egg is sure to be something that people absolutely adore. However, there's no set crew. And we've talked across all the Black Ops 6 marketing about how a set crew is being reintroduced in this game because Treyarch recognizes it's so important for the story, and without it, you don't really bond with the characters and you don't really feel connected to the map. And so it seems really strange that we're getting a map with no set crew here when Treyarch knows how problematic that is. So I want to give it a 10 based on the Richtofon stuff and like a 1 based on no set crew. So I'm gonna give it a 6. That might end up being a little harsh. It might end up being better than that. We just don't know. But for now, that's what I'm gonna have to go with. Next is unique draw. And honestly, I think the map really suffers here as well, because with all Zombies maps in general over the years, not just bonus maps, there's so frequently such an important draw to the map, pulling you in, making you decide that's the map I want to play today. But honestly, the unique draw of Liberty Falls seems to be that it looks easy, which is dreadful. Like, there's nothing about the aesthetic, the ambience, the features on the map that looks especially exciting. There's nothing that looks especially fun. There's nothing that it looks like I could get on Liberty Falls that I can't get elsewhere. It's just sort of bland. It's so vanilla. So unless you're a Harper's Ferry resident and you're really excited about seeing a thematically inspired map, and that would be a unique draw for you, I don't think there's a huge amount else that's going for this, other than like the intro cutscene. Like, it's bizarre that it doesn't really seem to have a hook. And so I'm gonna have to give this one a 2. Then for Wonder Weapon, it's ping-ponging again all over the place because it actually scores a lot of points because it has the jet gun returning, which in itself, it's a remake, remastered weapon, so like whatever, but they've improved it by giving it an alt fire and allowing it to be upgraded in new ways, and you can put camos on it now when you upgrade it. And so like all those things combined mean that they haven't just done what they did on Classified and brought back the Winter's Howl, or Der Riese in Black Ops 1 and brought back the Wunderwaffe with a couple of small tweaks. They've actually made some big tweaks and big improvements. And I'm sure there's going to be a quest to get the Wonder Weapon as well if you want to do that route. And there's probably also some other sort of hidden Wonder Weapon related stuff on the map. So I think in the Wonder Weapon department, it actually scores really solid points. And while I'd prefer something completely unique instead of something returning, I don't think it deserves to be penalized too much for that. So I'm going to give it a category leading 9. And then for gameplay and replayability and maybe high rounds, bro, it's just the most basic looking map I've ever seen. And we've already seen people go to round 50 on it, and it kind of looked bland. Like, I'm not sure that I would want to go to round 50 more than once on this map ever, because, I mean, why would you? Like, I've already seen 3 people do it, and it just looked like generic. You just sort of run around. You can basically hoard anywhere because it's so open. You just shoot your ray gun or whatever and you're kind of finished. It really doesn't look appetizing. It doesn't look like a good challenge. It doesn't look like something that I would grind to try and get better at it or to challenge myself. It just sort of looks mindless, which some people like for camo grinding, but I don't think that that's how we should be ranking our replayability factor. Like, what map do you turn your brain off to play? I don't think that's what we're ranking here as we evaluate the art presented to us by the Call of Duty team. So for replayability, I'm gonna kind of take a safe in the middle pick here and go for 4, but if you're a camo grinder, maybe it's a bit higher. So it's time for final scores. Liberty Falls, according to what I've seen, and obviously I could be mistaken because there could be stuff that I haven't seen yet that changes how I would rank it, right? But according to what I've seen, it lands on a final points total of 32, which puts it second last in the bonus maps category, which I think is crazy. It's actually wild because, like I said at the start of the video, Treyarch are insisting it's not even a bonus map. Treyarch's calling it a fully fledged map. And if it's struggling to compete against bonus maps that, as I acknowledged, we have lower expectations for because they're meant to be more shallow, that's part of the MO, then that's just not a great look. So fingers crossed we're all wrong about this and there's actually a secret underground area and you can visit Atlantis and there's all sorts of other bonkers stuff. But without that, this really isn't looking great. And it's meant that some people have even started calling it Liberty Balls instead of Liberty Falls. There's this whole joke going around the community right now. If you don't know the background context on that, I've got this whiteboard video that I did. It's linked on screen right now. Click through. It'll give you the full breakdown so that you're in on the joke as well.